Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining. It's a pleasure to have you here today. In today's webinar, we'll be focusing on private foundations. More specifically, private foundations as an alternative funding source. It's especially relevant today at a time when states are cutting funding from a lot of social service programs. Now let's take a look at how private foundations can offer an alternative solution. So the topics we'll be covering are as follows. First, we'll take a look at how to identify likely prospects for our specific programs. How to identify private foundations that will most likely be interested in providing support for our programs. Next, we'll be taking a look at how to frame the case for support. Once we've identified private foundations that may have an interest in our nonprofit, we need to approach them and present them a case worthy of earning their support. So how do we go about doing that? Next, we'll take a look at some of the common elements of successful proposals. Next, we'll take a look at overcoming common mistakes and obstacles relating to proposals. Then we'll take a look at the art of cultivation, cultivating the sponsor, starting from the initial contact all the way through the proposal submission. And then we'll take a look at stewarding the relationships. It's after we've identified prospects for our program, after we've framed our case for support, after we've set up a proposal with the elements that have proven to be successful, after we've overcome the common mistakes and obstacles while putting together the proposal and submitting it, after we've cultivated the relationship with the donor, we need to steward the relationship. We need to keep it going. These are the topics we'll be covering today. Let's get started with identifying prospects. How do we go about identifying private foundations that would be interested in our social cause? So, step one, we'd be looking through resources. So the top resources are as follows. There's the Foundation Center, GrantSmart, GuideStar, the Chronicle of Philanthropy. Then there are other professional affiliations, and then there's word of mouth from professional colleagues. We need to go through all these resources in order to be able to identify likely prospects that would be interested in funding our social cause. Foundation Center, GrantSmart, and GuideStar, as well as the Chronicle of Philanthropy. These provide databases of requests for proposals. They provide databases of foundations funders, etc. In addition, there are professional affiliations. And in addition, there's a word of mouth from professional colleagues, good old-fashioned networking. These are the most typical resources that we'd use when trying to identify prospects, when trying to identify funders that would be interested in funding our nonprofits, when trying to find donors and foundations that their interests are aligned with our nonprofit agency. That's step one, identifying the prospects. Next, after we've combed through all those databases, after we've tapped out all our networking resources to identify potential funders, we need to narrow the results. We need to comb through those identified prospects and narrow the results to include only those that there'd be a high chance of them actually funding our operation. So how do we go about that? So the most common way of filtering out the search, the most common way of narrowing the results would be to break things down by categories. First, we want to look at the donors giving by program or issue area. Are they mainly focused on health? Are they mainly focused on children's well-being? Are they mainly focused on building up rural areas, etc.? We want to look at how much they allocate, how much of their funding do they allocate to specific programs or to specific issues. Next, we want to look at giving by geographic location. What geographic location do these potential funders allocate their donations to? What specific city, what county, what state, what region, etc.? Are they focused on building up rural areas in America? Are they focused on health in rural areas in America? Are they focused on health in rural areas in third world countries? Are they focused on children in specific states, specific regions? Are they focused on building up rural areas in specific counties, specific cities, etc.? And finally, we want the final category that we want to look at, perhaps the most crucial category, is what they say they do versus what they actually do. We want to look at their grant guidelines versus the grants actually made. There can be a lot of reasons why a foundation would provide support to agencies that don't always fit into the guidelines. And there can be a lot of reasons why they won't provide support to agencies that do fit in the guidelines. Perhaps the most likely reason is that when you look at the structure of a foundation, the actual donations are a direct reflection of the people supporting the foundation. Now, let's assume that the foundation has a collective pool of $100 million to distribute. Okay, and they say they focus on health, children's well-being, and rural development across America. That's what they focus on. Now, there's a lot of reasons why people would donate to a foundation. There are a lot of, there are charitable trusts that are looking to disperse their money without doing the research on the nonprofits that it goes to. There are, believe it or not, there are mutual funds that specifically invest in nonprofit agencies in order to offset taxes on portfolios. So there's a lot of different styles of donations going into the foundation itself. Now, what happens is that, say the foundation is providing financial support to provide better health services, to provide better better stability to rural areas, or to provide better well-being to children, okay, across America. So there's going to be somebody in Georgia that likes this foundation because, A, by allocating part of their mutual fund portfolio to nonprofit, they offset taxes. B, they don't need to do research into the actual nonprofits that are being funded. They rely on the foundation's research. In addition to this donor in Georgia, there's someone else in California. Now, the donor in Georgia is a very wealthy couple, and they'd like to donate $50 million to this foundation. The couple in California didn't see such a great return on their portfolio. They don't really need to offset taxes all that much, and they figure, by donating $1,000, they'll come out more or less even.